Sweet Science Brothers coming to you live from NYC. What up, YouTube boxing fans? It's your boy Av, and I'm back with some more boxing. We had some big news yesterday. Kell Brook has signed a deal to fight Gennady Golovkin, and I was gonna upload a video yesterday, but me and my brother Garth, we got into like a heated argument about the fight. Um, he thinks it's a terrible fight, and he's gonna make his own video about it, about his opinion on it. So I completely disagree with him. So I just want to give you guys my thoughts on the fight. So if you follow Gennady Golovkin's career, like I do, you'll know that Triple G has been in England, him and his team, Tom Loeffler, for weeks. And they were in England multiple times because of Chris Eubank Jr. So basically, Chris Eubank Jr. has been calling out Triple G, him and his father, making all these claims, making all these statements, and Gennady Golovkin and his team went out there and they discussed with his promoter Eddie Hearn about a fight between the two. So all the terms were agreed to for this fight. I want you guys to pay attention to what I'm going to tell you right here. So all the terms were agreed to this fight between Gennady Golovkin and Chris Eubank Jr. before Chris Eubank Jr.'s last fight. I want that to sink in. The terms were agreed to for this fight before Chris Eubank Jr.'s last fight. And then it was just a matter of Chris Eubank Jr. getting the win, and then they were supposed to sit down, sign the fight. It was supposed to get done in a week. So Chris Eubank Jr. calling out Triple G, getting all this publicity, and let's be honest, right? No one gives a damn. I'm gonna be honest. Besides Chris Eubank Jr.'s fans in England, nobody really gives a damn, the general boxing public, about what this guy's doing, because Chris Eubank Jr. is not a champion. He's not a world champion. He has some British middleweight title, but he's not a world champion. He's fought nothing but like scrubs that nobody's ever heard of his whole career, except for stepping up one time to fight Billy Joe Saunders, who essentially masterclassed him. I had that fight like like 9 rounds to 3. Basically, I only gave Chris Eubank Jr. like the last 2 rounds, and I think I might have given him the first or the second one. I don't know, but I had it like 10 to 3. I thought Billy Joe Saunders beat the crap out of him, just outboxed him, made him look silly. So he only stepped up the one time against Billy Joe Saunders. So, he's been calling out Triple G. He's been getting all this publicity, and when you go to boxing scene, you're seeing all these articles. Oh, Chris Eubank Jr. says this about Triple G. Chris Eubank Sr. says this. Oh, calling Triple G out. And you're seeing all these articles about Chris Eubank Jr. that, without mentioning Triple G's name, he wouldn't be in any of those articles. So he was riding Triple G's name big time, right? And, but I thought that he had me convinced after a while that he really wants to fight Triple G. Now, as a boxing fan, as a student of the game, as somebody who studies the craft, I wasn't excited about the Chris Eubank Jr. fight, because styles make fights, and Chris Eubank Jr. is a come forward slugger with very bad defense, who knocks out a bunch of cab drivers in England. But, I just feel like Gennady Golovkin would destroy him inside of 5 rounds. Just completely knock his head right off. I just didn't see any type of challenge that he posed to Triple G. He was just a name for Triple G to stomp on. So I wasn't like that excited. Everyone knows that I'm a massive, huge Triple G fan, and I haven't made a single video being excited about the Chris Eubank Jr. fight. So, but it was a name for Triple G to stomp on, so I was just waiting for the thing to get signed so I could talk about it. So the terms were agreed to before Chris Eubank Jr.'s last fight. All he had to do was win the fight and sign the damn contract. He goes ahead, he wins the fight, he gets extra exposure, mentioning Triple G's name, all of this stuff. And then come time to sign the contract, he don't want to sign the contract. And, they start changing terms, wanting more money, wanting more this, wanting more that. And I knew that this fight was doomed when I saw an interview with their promoter was sitting at a table with Chris Eubank Sr. at a press conference, and they were asking them about the Gennady Golovkin fight. And so Chris Eubank Jr. is like, I just want to make sure that the first dollar that drops goes to the fighters, and he starts talking about all this stuff. And his own promoter, Eddie Hearn, goes, wait, hold on. He looks at him and he goes, the terms of the fight were agreed upon. The contract was ready. But if you want to make more money, if you want to try to negotiate a better deal with the network and they're willing to pay you more, I'm fine with that. But the terms were already agreed upon. Like Eddie Hearn just turned around and was like, yo, we already had a deal. You guys agreed on the money that you wanted. And now the contract is here. You don't want to sign it. You're trying to get more money. And Eddie Hearn alluded to, like, hey, if these guys want to pay you more, I'm cool with it. But we had already agreed to terms. When your own promoter turns around at a press conference and is like, yo, you already agreed to this fight. The terms were already agreed upon, and you're just looking for more money. That's not a good look. So anyway, so Gennady Golovkin and his team, first, because they thought the fight was agreed upon before Chris Eubank Jr. Even had his last fight. They had this fight agreed. So they were thinking this fight was a done deal. It's just a matter of signing. So from that time, before Chris Eubank Jr.'s last fight, during, and then the 3.5 weeks after, they've just been twiddling their thumbs. And the plan is to get Gennady to fight 2 more times this year. So these guys dragged Gennady Golovkin and his team around for almost maybe a little more than 2 months. And we all know Billy Joe Saunders doesn't want the fight. We know Daniel Jacobs doesn't want the fight. He came out in a recent article and he said, I'm willing to fight Gennady Golovkin 1.5 years from now, if the money is right, and yada, 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 These guys don't want to fight him, right? And now you got this guy, Chris Eubank Jr., who's got a name and wants to fight him in the division, and now all of a sudden he's not signing the contract either. So, Gennady Golovkin had, pressure from HBO and, I should say Tom Loeffler. There's pressure from HBO, who's Gennady going to fight? They had a September 10th date already picked out. Everything's good to go. So Eddie Hearn is like, hey, they tried to change the terms. They went so far to the point where they told Eddie Hearn they wanted to double the ticket prices so that all that extra money on the tickets could go straight to the Eubanks. They wanted to pick who was going to commentate on the fight, and I mean it was outrageous demands. And Eddie Hearn was done with them. So basically, Eddie Hearn was like, listen, would you guys be willing to fight Kell Brook? If he was willing to take this fight, the same terms that we agreed upon, and Tom Loeffler and his team were like, yeah, if he wants to fight at those terms, we'll do it. And then Eddie Hearn went to Kell Brook. Kell Brook said absolutely, and the fight was signed in about 24 hours, real quick. They put the contract in front of Kell Brook. It was signed immediately. Because from what I hear, it's a sweet deal. It's $4.5 million guaranteed plus pay-per-view money. And a little bit of stadium money. It's a huge fight. It's an absolutely huge fight. So Kell Brook signed the contract. Now everybody is talking all of this crap about Triple G, right? Oh my God, he's doing the same thing Canelo did, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. It's just terrible, and I completely disagree with the assumption that everybody's making. I think that Kell Brook is a far better fighter than Chris Eubank Jr. Levels above Chris. Levels. I think that he's going to do much better than Chris Eubank Jr. And, it's a better fight. It's a much better fight than Chris Eubank Jr. Despite what the haters want to say, Chris Eubank Jr. sucks. He had absolutely no chance. Kell Brook has much more. When in comparison to Chris Eubank Jr., Kell Brook is levels above the guy, you know. And the fact that he's a welterweight, it's like he's a welterweight, but he's a huge welterweight. Kell Brook, if you watch the fight with Sean Porter, right? Just look at Kell Brook's size. Look at how he bullied Sean Porter in there. Look how he manhandled Sean Porter. Totally manhandled him, dismantled him, dispatched him, gave him a vicious beating. The only thing he didn't do was knock him out, you know. But he gave Sean Porter a vicious beating. And I challenge you guys, go watch that fight again. Look at how big Kell Brook was the night of the fight. The guy was like I don't know what his fight night weight was, bro. Okay? But he looked like he was $165 and change. He was huge, man. He was huge, massive, big welterweight. And I got a friend that I had met on Facebook who's from Sheffield. Met him in a boxing forum, and he told me sometimes he goes to the gym where Kell Brook trains, and he said that, you know, a lot of people are saying Kell Brook is having difficulty like maintaining 147, and that's why he's been chasing like a really big fight. He's been wanting a big fight because, you know, he can't stay in that division for much longer. So I don't know how much of it is true, but, you know, this guy lives in Sheffield, and I believe him. I look at Kell Brook's size, and I see it. You know, he's a huge guy. So it is what it is. So this is the fight that we have in front of us. Now, I'm excited about the fight. I can't wait. And my whole thing is, you know, all these people are criticizing Gennady Golovkin, and my whole thing is like, okay, well, what one of the greatest middleweights of all time, Marvin Hagler, what are his best fights? What were his best fights? Everyone's gonna tell you, oh, when he fought Leonard, when he fought Hearns, when he fought Duran, whatever. Like they're gonna mention a bunch of welterweights. He fought a bunch of welterweights. They're all-time great welterweights, but he fought welterweights, and he beat most of them. He actually lost to Leonard, but you know, that's a controversial loss. I thought Hagler won that fight, but it was very close. And because Leonard was small, I could see the judges giving him the edge. You know, absolutely. Either way, my point is that, you know, this has happened before. Then look at Bernard Hopkins. You know, he fought Oscar De La Hoya. He fought Tito Trinidad. Like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, Triple G does that. Everyone's all, you know, on his nuts. And they start talking all of this shit about this fight. Now, all of these people on boxing forums, you know, specifically like Ring IQ, that's a boxing forum I like to talk on. I like to go on this forum. If you guys want to go to a really good forum, I like that forum. But just put your big boy pants on before you get in there, because there's a lot of knowledgeable guys in there, and we disagree. It's not like a fanboy club. So you're going to be in the mix with Floyd Mayweather fans who are very knowledgeable about boxing, and you're going to get in the mix with a lot of other fans that are knowledgeable about boxing. So put your big boy pants on, and if you're like too much of a fanboy, maybe you shouldn't even go there. But the point is, it's a great boxing forum, and a lot of hardcores in there. Now, so shout out to Ring IQ. So going back, so Hagler did this. Bernard Hopkins did this, and now you got all these guys on the forum, you know, saying, oh, Canelo did this, now Gennady's doing it, you guys crucified Canelo for doing this, yada, yada, yada. Well, let me break this down for all of you guys, okay? Because this is really easy. It's not difficult to do. I'm speaking off the top of my mind, no script, no research, and 99% of my videos are that way. It is what it is. Let me explain to you why it's different than Canelo versus Khan. Very, very different. Okay? Canelo, okay, had the Triple G fight right in front of him, which he refused to take and negotiated to avoid so that he could get a voluntary defense. Then he went from being a guy who can fight anybody in the world that he chooses. Everyone's knocking on your door, begging to fight you. He could have fought Lemieux. He could have fought Jacobs. He could have fought Saunders. There's not a single fighter in the division that will refuse a fight with Canelo. And he goes and chooses a chinny welterweight. No, a chinny light welterweight, junior welterweight in Khan, who never did anything in the welterweight division other than slap around Devon Alexander. That was the only thing he did in welterweight. So he fought a chinny welterweight who wasn't even a champion, who's been knocked out at lightweight, junior welterweight, and, you know, very chinny, hasn't done anything, was quite irrelevant for a while, and he chose to fight that guy instead of fighting all the guys that were in his own division who were begging to fight him. Okay? So the situation with Triple G is completely different, because Triple G is a guy who nobody in his division wants to fight. He's chasing Billy Joe Saunders, chasing Eubank Jr.'s, wants the Jacobs fight, willing to give him 50-50, willing to do whatever it takes to get these big fights in his division on. And these guys don't want to fight him, okay? Goes to London, starts negotiating with a middleweight who's got a lot of respect and a name out there, who's been calling him out, offering him big money, an excellent cut of the money, willing to fight him in his home country, and then has that guy string him along for 2 months and ultimately duck him, price himself out, whatever the case is. Even the own fighters' promoters like, yo, these guys made it impossible to make the deal. And now Gennady Golovkin, you know, it's mid-July. He needs to fight in September, and he's planning to fight again in December. So he's got 2 fights before the year is over that he wants to have. Okay? And all of a sudden, he don't have a fight signed. No one in his division wants to fight him. And the promoter of the opposite fighter who just ducked him says, hey, I got an undefeated welterweight IBF champion who's popular as shit here in England, who's dying to fight. He'd love to fight you. Would you be willing to fight him if he signed the same deal at 160? A guy with a big name, which will be on pay-per-view, massive stadium, here in London, same contract you've been negotiating for 2 months. Would you be willing to fight Kell Brook? Of course they're going to say yes. Are you guys smoking crack? Like, how is he not going to take that deal? And I got these guys, you know, saying, oh, you know, he should have went and fought Lara. He should go up to 168. He should do this and that. Bro, is Lara going to give him as much money as a Kell Brook? Is Zordo going to give him as much money as Kell Brook? Now, Lara is full of shit. He don't even want it, bro. All that talk with that's all talk with Triple G. He wants nothing to do with Triple G. He wants to sit around and fight guys like Martirosyan for the rest of his damn career. He don't even want to fight the top dogs in his own division. Like, I'm tired of people mentioning Lara. Lara won't go 7 rounds with a Triple G. Like, I don't even care about that fight, honestly. I keep hearing Lara's name. It's like, you know, I wish that fight would happen just so that you guys would see him get bruised, battered, and beaten like a wife in an abusive relationship, bro. Like, Lara is nothing. I'm just so tired of Lara's name being attached to Triple G. That fight ain't realistic. He don't want to fight. They've never even sent Triple G an offer. They've never done anything. You know, it's just Twitter call-outs from another PBC fighter. Another PBC call-out. I'm tired of it. It's not even a realistic fight. And as for moving up to 168, why should he move up to 168 right now? He hasn't unified the division. You know, and other people said, what's this going to do? So first they say, oh, this is like Canelo. No, it's not like Canelo. Canelo avoided top fights at middleweight that were bigger fights than the Khan fight and chose to fight a little chinny guy who hasn't done anything in his own division. Okay? Triple G's fighting an undefeated champion of that division, and, you know, he's just fighting him out of circumstance, and it's time for a payday, honestly. You know? But the point is, it's different. The situation is different. Triple G is not ducking a bunch of guys in his division and opting to fight a lighter dude. Everyone else is ducking him, and a champion from a lighter division with a big name said, I'll fight you. I don't see why he wouldn't take that fight. That's number 2. And finally, how does this? The next question is, how does this get Triple G where he wants to go in his career? How does this benefit him? How does this help him in unifying the division? This does benefit Triple G, and this does benefit his middleweight reign. How does it do it? I'll explain. Because, a lot of people just getting emotional, and they really haven't been using their mind at all. No thinking cap here. He is going to fight in England, the home country of the last champion in the middleweight division who's ducking him, Billy Joe Saunders. Okay? And he's going to be fighting on English pay-per-view against a big name, and it's going to do big numbers. It's going to do at least 400,000 buys on Sky PPV. It's going to do great. And it's going to be free for us here on HBO, which is awesome. I like that. Now, how is it going to better him? Well, he's going to fight this guy. He's going to do big numbers in England, and the pressure from the English fans is going to get crazy on Billy Joe Saunders, because they're going to be like, yo, Kell Brook stepped up and fight him. You're ducking this guy? And then they're going to start showing how much money Brook made in this fight, because he's making a guarantee of 5, and he's getting a percentage of the pay-per-view, and he's getting a percentage of the gate. So he might end up getting he could end up making 10 million in this fight. So it's going to make a big statement for other potential fighters who want to fight Triple G, like Billy Joe Saunders, and it shows that Triple G is willing to fight you in your backyard. So it's a really good move. It's a really good move, and I think it will put pressure on Billy Joe Saunders to take the Triple G fight. And I think he'll get more money for fighting Triple G than Canelo, because now it's going to be like, okay, this is how much Khan made to fight Canelo. Look how much Kell Brook made to fight Triple G. You understand? It puts a ballpark figure out there for, like, what type of numbers is Triple G capable of getting when he's fighting another big name behind him, which is something he hasn't been able to do in his career yet, So this will be the first time he's across the ring from another guy with a huge name. So this is going to be the first time you get to see that. Whether, of course, the guy's a welterweight, and a lot of people would rather have him fight a middleweight with a big name. But the point is, it's the first time a really big name with a huge fan base got some balls to step in the ring and fight him. So we could really see Triple G's numbers, because Canelo claims to be the A side, and all this shit that Oscar and all these guys were talking about, I've already spoke in previous videos. Canelo is a 300 to 400,000 pay-per-view buy. Maximum. When he's up against a guy without a name. When he fights a guy with a name, he can go up to 600,000 to 900. But he's not breaking 1 million unless he's fighting Mayweather or Pacquiao. It is what it is. And I think that Gennady's numbers in England are going to be similar. They're going to be like 400-something thousand. He's going to do good numbers. And if it's going to put pressure on Billy Joe Saunders, it's also going to put pressure on Eubank Sr., because those fights aren't out of the water. Triple G is going to fight one more time at the end of the year, and I do believe that Triple G and his team would like to fight 2 times in England. I could see them fighting in England one more time. If the numbers are good, they'll fight in England again this year. Maybe even fight Billy Joe or Eubank and ride the wave from the Kell Brook fight all the way to the next one. That's what I could see happening. Even Eddie Hearn said, listen, they priced themselves out. They made it very difficult. He lost it this time, but maybe he'll get it next time. I feel almost as though him and Tom Loeffler spoke about it, and they were like, listen, after this fight, we'll try to get Eubank to sign this time. So he might end up getting the Eubank fight or the Billy Joe Saunders fight right after this one, and just stay in England for another big fight. And as for Canelo, if he's serious about fighting Triple G in September in 2017, which I highly doubt that fight will ever happen, but if he is serious about it, it's going to build up Triple G's numbers so that when Oscar talks that nonsense about 90-10 split, they could tell him to go F himself. You know what I'm saying? Because he's going to do big numbers with Kell Brook. Anyway, Girth is going to make a video because he's furious about this fight, and he's going to give you guys his take on it. This is mine. This is your boy out from the Sweet Science Brothers. Peace.